Hey guys, my name is Bryan, and I'm here to tell you all about God's limitless power. God has limitless power. Say this with me.
God has limitless power.
Whenever I say God has limitless power, I want you to hold your arms up like this and flex your muscles. Try that for me. God has limitless power. Good job. Now, limitless means that his power has no end, and he can do everything. In fact, in the Bible it says in Ephesians 3:20 that with God's power working in us, he can do more than anything we can imagine. What does this mean? Well, that means that God has limitless power, and that God can do anything. What's more than that is he can do anything through you with his power. How cool is that? Now, one of the best examples of this is David. See, David was a shepherd. He stood in a field all day and watched sheep. Here's a sheep, there's a sheep, just sheep. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired just thinking about it. But one day, he had to take food to the Israelite army because they were fighting a war. Now, they were all afraid. They were all hiding from a huge giant on the other side whose name was Goliath. He was very big. And none of the Israelites thought they could fight him. But David knew that God has limitless power, so he decided to fight Goliath. Now, there was a lot of things against David. Here, let me show you. For one, David was littler than Goliath. You see, David was a small boy, and Goliath, he was a 9-foot tall giant. That's like twice as tall as I am. How was a boy David's size supposed to take on Goliath? Next, David had no army with him. Remember, all the Israelites were hiding. They were afraid of Goliath. But Goliath's army, the Philistines, they weren't afraid. They had Goliath on their side. So David had no one behind him to back him up. But Goliath, he had his entire army. Now, besides not having an army, David didn't also have strength. David was a lot weaker. You see, Goliath, he was this huge giant. His armor itself, it weighed 150 pounds. I don't think I can even lift that much. And Goliath, well, he ran around and fought in it. David, he could barely lift regular armor. And he couldn't fight in it. What was he supposed to do against the giant? Now, besides Goliath's great strength, army, and size, he also had better weapons. You see, Goliath had a giant spear and a huge shield to fight with. David, aim weapons. You see, he had this tiny sling and some rocks he got out of a river to fight a giant who had a shield and a spear. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's going to work very well. Now, those all seem pretty bad, but the worst one, David had no experience. David had never fought in the army. How was he supposed to fight a giant who knew what he was doing? Goliath, he won all his battles. And David, well, he stood in the field watching sheep. I guess if they were having who's the best shepherd competition, David might have won. But they weren't having who's the best shepherd competition. So look at that. It's a lot of things stacked up against David, isn't it? Well, David knew that God has limitless power, so he decided to fight Goliath. Now, David couldn't have won without God's power. And I'll show you what God did. God crushed all his problems. And I'm going to show you, but I need your help. On 3, I need you to yell, God has limitless power, as loud as you can. Okay? 1, 2, 3.
God has limitless power.
Just kidding. That wasn't loud enough. 1, 2, 3.
God has limitless power.
See, just like that, God crushed all of David's problems that were in his way. David couldn't have defeated Goliath without God's help. Now, here's what I want you to remember. If you ever have problems stacked up against you like David did, or you're just having a bad day, you can remember that God is on your side and that God has limitless power. Thank you.